So Sunday actually started with the last brand that my wife and I founded called Quinn Snacks, and that brand is still out there and doing really great, and you can find it on the shelf in most grocery stores. But the intent at Quinn was always focused really heavily on our supply chain and our farmers and growers. We spent a lot of time in field with them, had a lot of exposure to organic farming and kind of that incredible relationship between them and their land. And then I bought a home because I have 3 boys and I needed to care for my lawn. I was staying there in that aisle in the home improvement store, and it felt really wrong. It seemed incredibly toxic. You could smell it from 100 yards away. And I also started digging in and learned that it's actually our 3rd largest crop. There's 40 million acres of lawn. It's tied with wheat. So it's just a massive problem that I thought I could help solve. So there was no way I could do this alone. I didn't know a lot about plant science at all. And so the first thing I needed to do was find an expert in the field. And I was very lucky to find someone named Frank Rossi he's a turf PhD from Cornell, professor there. He's now our chief science officer. And I listened to his podcast, and I learned a lot about turf science from him and learned a lot about his personality and decided I need to reach out, I need to get this guy on board, and was very, very lucky that he was willing to speak to me, and we over time developed a relationship and started working on this problem together. And really Frank helped unlock the scientific approach that we ended up creating at Sunday. So when we looked at the space and the things we wanted to try to fix at Sunday, one of the stats that stood out was that people put on about 5 times more pesticides per acre on their own lawn than we use on industrial farms. So it's this incredible over-application of these really toxic compounds. And so our intent was to kind of outsmart the pesticides and herbicides and create a system that used data and science in order to have a good result and still get the decent looking lawn that you kind of need without relying on all those things. So challenges in starting Sunday, I think that's a book we could write, but I'll dig into a couple of those. I think when we were able to circumvent some of this is my background and interest is always in doing research and learning a lot about the end user before really making too much. And so we did a beta test in 2018 with 100 users across the US. And in that test, we ran into so many problems and so many challenges, and everything from broken pouches and UPS calling us to tell us there's fertilizer all over the floor, to customer experiences that really weren't up to par. But through phone calls and actually in-person interviews, those people, we continued to refine the product and the experience and made it better and better. So that getting the product right was a year-long process with lots of research. Other challenges, of course, going into actually launching the product was building a supply chain from scratch. In an industry that really hasn't moved in the last half century, so we would call suppliers and they don't have a playbook for this. They aren't used to working with startups. So we really had to do a lot of deep digging to find the right partners to make the product real. So the advice I would give to other entrepreneurs and founders just starting out, I think it would be just to make things. My core has always been around, I get the most joy out of creating and building new things and getting around the world. And so we did that really early on, and we tried and built a lot. And as I said, with the beta tests and things like that, all of it worked, but we were continually learning. We didn't take this long period and make the perfect thing and hope it worked. We were experimenting and prototyping all along the way. And I also think a big part of being an entrepreneur and getting through this process, because it's emotionally challenging sometimes, is that reinforcement you get through that cycle. Building something, feeling good about it, getting good feedback, and making it better, that helps carry you through the whole process of actually getting up and running. At least for me, it does.